The views, language, and candor expressed on this series are designed to provoke thought and conversation amongst adults. Some opinions and perspectives may be unsuitable for those who are emotionally weak. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to A Coach's Decision with Chris P. Reed, where we dive into topics each week that could help you or someone close to you get through. Many of my clients are skilled at the game of life, but there are times when you have to protect the players from themselves. There's times where you need a coach's decision. My top client and producer has decided to give you, the audience, a glimpse into his sessions each week to help him navigate these moments. What are we talking about today, sir?
Well, sir, first of all, welcome everyone. I'm your friendly neighborhood producer. Please drop your comments, questions, or whatever in the chat. I'll be fielding those and asking those to make sure we get all of these points across because I can't think of everything that quick. So I need the audience help sometimes. Today, I want to talk about how do you stop or at least minimize the stress that comes with success.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so,
That's a
you hear
good
my
topic.
point, or I need to give you some more? You good?
No, that's a good topic. I think it seems to be somewhat a great thing to coach through because that means success already exists.
Yeah,
So now we started at the top.
Mhm.
We ain't started at the bottom and now we're here. We started at the top.
And staying here.
Yeah,
That's what we're trying
absolutely.
to
You
do.
already got on the Givenchy sweatsuit, this burgundy trim. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
You pronounce that, but yeah.
so I think that one of the things that I've heard about people who have a level of success and have time to think about where they are from where they began is they have a series of survivor's remorse. They start to think about who didn't make it, who could be there, and being the Moses of their family or of their tribe or of their friend group or whatever, and bring everybody up. Everybody can't be like LeBron and have the type of friends that are conducive to do the work that when you give them opportunity, they run with the ball. And so that's where the survivor's remorse thing really comes in, is that you're eclipsing or outpacing your family group, your friend group, your people that you know and love. I don't know another burden of success besides tax brackets that I could think would occur, because the problem with the question itself, as far as I'm concerned, and you can obviously educate me and you and your tribe or your people, that's tuned into your session, you can educate me on success being an option and not you're not drafted into success, and you're not in a situation where success has to be maintained. You can say win and forego whatever moniker of success you would like if you feel like it's too much. You don't have to drive the BMW. They still sell Hondas. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, please kind of elaborate on when you get to a point where you feel like success is overwhelming or there's stress there and you can't do anything about it, unless you're talking about trying to keep something the same while changing some output, which of course is the definition of Einstein's insanity.
Okay, so some of the stress that comes with success, you succeeded, and those who helped you get there or supported you or cheered you on, attended your graduation, they feel like, we did it together. Like you the
Mm-hmm.
one, you made it.
Mm-hmm.
Those same people, although they don't mention it,
Mm-hmm.
are the ones who say, if you fail, you fail on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Your bad. You should have made
Mm-hmm.
better decisions. But as a success, it's all of us. Therefore, something is owed.
Yeah, I think once again, I don't like when people mix metaphors, and the idea of business and personal shouldn't be a homogenous term or a homogenous thought process. So if it's a situation where you were starting a business and you needed $10,000 to start up this business, and you wanted me to invest in equity in the startup, and I gave you 1%, if I gave you 10% of that, so $1,000, then when you blow up and you're a billionaire, I should be entitled to 1% or 10%, excuse me, of whatever you've amassed. But if it's a situation where you thought that I was investing in you out of the kindness of my heart and giving you agape love and just entrusting my good intentions or my charity, which is, a Christian tenet, my charity into your success, and you being good was its own reward. They say, what goodness is, don't be good for me. Don't do it for me. Do it for goodness sake, right? So I'm doing this. You think I'm doing this for goodness sake. You don't think that I buy your kids a birthday gift or a Christmas gift. So therefore, when I have kids, you owe me, you're in arrears for all of the gifts that I had just bestowed on my nephews. But when you have people that think like that and operate like that, be mindful, because they'll come back and sue you for 50 million. You know what I'm saying? If you let it happen. So in the idea of when you're charting your success on the way up, if people have the guts or the audacity to say you owe me, then you have to have the shared audacity to explain to them the percentage of input they had into the actual overall success. Also, while telling them the distractions and the detriments that they incurred throughout that journey as well. Because everybody has a highlight tape of when dude tried to jump on you and I was there to help you fight him, and now you're the CEO of this company or whatever. Bro, I bailed you out of jail 4 times, and grandma gave us 3 whoopings. And you know what I'm saying? Like, all of that washed out years ago. But you're worried about the highlights and what you deserve based off of proximity, not based off investment. You have no idea how the test went that I passed, the trainings, the things that I've gone through, the drug test that I did pass, things of that nature. People don't look at the small steps that make a great journey. And unfortunately, if you let somebody diminish your small steps and make them feel like y'all arrived there together without understanding what you put in behind the scenes and behind closed doors, then you make it look like anybody could do it. And you know this from being successful. It ain't easy. It's not just something that you wake up and, you didn't wake up like this. You had to get up and make some things happen. You had to first get up, and then you had to motivate yourself to keep it going. And then you had to not get distracted and rest on your laurels. I'll tell you one more thing before I let you and in the audience chime in. My nephew is a great person that has done well financially for himself. And one of the things that he had taught himself to believe or programmed himself to think is that if I had have invested in X company, just $10,000 or just $1,000, I would be a billionaire by now. And what I was trying to explain to him is when they say things like that, they're saying that you got in on Google when it was $100 a share and you bought 100 shares and you never touched it. That means when it got to be evaluated at $1 million, you didn't touch it. When it got to be evaluated at $20 million, you didn't touch it. What's the chances of somebody like us putting 10 G's on something and then just letting that thing ride, hoping that it gets to $1 billion one day? That the math don't work that way. You tend to pinch off. You tend to dig in. And so you would have never made that billion because you would have kind of took some of your winnings early on. But when you start telling yourself, damn, if I had done this, I could have been here, you have to do the whole equation. Don't just jump to the end and make it seem like something that it could never have been. And unfortunately, that's what we do in life. We say, well, if I had just stayed in school or stayed with this girl or did this, that, you disregarding everything else that could have happened, everything else that could have happened if that had occurred. You're not looking at how you would have reacted in real time, because the problem with retrospect is you can make it what you want.
Okay, that's like the new family, the family that you run with. How much do you owe your mama? She was there for everything.
Allegedly.
Sacrificed a lot.
Allegedly. Everybody ain't got the same parental investment that you may have had. And I think that those are instances where you don't allow for your parent, your guardian, to not be great at accounting for their investment in your game attendance or your parent-teacher conferences or your whatever, and then become expert mathematicians when you get this bread. All of a sudden, they know how much child support could have been, and they want parental support at 20%. They want this at 20, you know what I'm saying? They doing all this tabulating, too much counting, as you say, to how big your house is and how many rooms you have available and this, that kind of deal. If you know in your heart when it's a good deal, that's business, personal, otherwise. You know when it's a good deal, and you know when you stretching. Don't let somebody guilt you into bad business decisions. The fact is this: if you got the kind of mom that was kind of there and kind of this and kind of that, and she didn't do a good job taking care of you, I'm not saying don't take care of her, but damn it, don't let her take care of herself. She proved that she's not good taking care of you. So giving her a checkbook or giving her an allowance or giving her a black card, you know what I'm saying? And I don't know this for a fact. And so I apologize if I'm speaking out of turn. But I think Gloria James is handled to be taken care of by LeBron. I don't think she has her own account with some of them billions or pieces of those billions sitting in it for her to be left to her own devices. I don't think she, based on history, can be trusted to do so. So if you have a mama that was that mama and that was there, like Lamar Jackson's mama that negotiated his deal and then he gave her that's relationships matter. Styles make fights, and relationships and context matters. Every mama ain't the same mama, just like every daddy ain't the same daddy. Every father's not the same father. Every uncle ain't the same uncle. You know what I mean? Now, you find a little more closeness when it comes to people describing how their grandmama was. But other than that, it's a wild card. You don't know what that person came through or came up with, the age of your mother, the educational aptitude, all of those things matter in what you feel like she should be evaluated as. But that's something that is easier when you're giving freely and openly, as opposed to her making requisitions of what you should do with things that you have created for yourself.
Key Gal 1996
Mhm.
could have, should have, would have. Good point.
You know,
So
and there's a statement that you said when I was growing up: if it was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Like you can go, you go through ifs and what if this and what if that, if this had to happen and that had to happen. We here now. We are what the record says we are. Bill Parcells. You know what I'm saying? So at that point in time, I have to make the best determination with the information at my disposal at that time. And I'm not saying punish your parents for not being perfect. I'm also not saying punish your parents for not doing things the way you would have done them. But you've been around enough and involved in it to know, were they armed accordingly with the information to do right by you? Was they? I know for me, and I'm just speaking passionately and openly, vulnerably. My mom was a young mom. We learned a lot of stuff together. We grew up a lot together. And so I couldn't really hold her accountable, not having a college degree, of telling me what school to go to and what to pledge and all this. She didn't know. So me being mad at her because she didn't take the path that I took, that's a waste of time. It's a waste of energy, and it's disrespectful. Now I think when people go to honor thy mother and thy father type of stuff, they go too far with what honor means. Honor means don't be overtly and oppressively disrespectful. It doesn't mean let them walk over you and don't talk back and you don't have an opinion and all of that, slave type stuff. Don't do that. You can be yourself and be expressive because you come from a place of knowledge and you come from a place of, I understand how I achieved this, not obtained this. We have a tendency in our community to believe that you got that house or those houses or that job because of some mystery lottery that pulled your name, and they disregard all of the investments, all the late nights, all the early mornings, all of the bus rides, all of the working at the fast food restaurant with non-slip shoes. Like all that stuff happened, bro. Like you worked at KFC, you worked at the gas station, you worked at Texas Instrument. Like you stair stepped your way to where you are, where you could say, I'm at a top company in the world. But you can go back and look at the path and the legacy. You didn't obtain this. Nobody gave this to you. You achieved this through systematic and systemic steps that you put in from a strategy. And don't let anybody diminish that and say they didn't do any of that, but they want some of what it provided.
when you the mystery lottery, or if you
Yeah.
built up the success, either way, typically in our families, we are visited by at least three people.
This is the ghost of Christmas past, huh? Three
Exactly. So,
ghosts.
so what I want to know from you, I'm glad you caught that. Was Ebenezer Scrooge a fool, or was he smart? Because they say a fool and his money soon split.
Soon part
This
ways.
is the old proverb. So was Ebenezer a fool, or was he smart?
I think that he was short sighted in the idea of he was blessed and built with the things he needed. And then he became distracted by the love of money and the security that money gave him. If you look at the psychology of an Ebenezer Scrooge, he had been dumped on by people, and all he could count on to get their attention and respect was the bread. He wasn't a handsome man. He wasn't a tall man. He wasn't athletic. He had a business acumen. And so all people really respected was him getting his bread. And you have to be careful when people use certain tactics to get to a place. Me and my wife just talked about this today. If you have a bad actor at your job and everybody hates them and they talk loud and talk inappropriate and this and that, and they wind themselves getting promoted, all you've done is created a worse actor because you validated how they got there. You validated that this is part of the culture you're trying to establish because you rewarded that person for bad behavior. You know what I mean? And all of us have been at jobs where you have somebody and said, this person makes my day worse when I come in here. Why is this person in charge? And there's many reasons as to why that person has been elevated, and I'm not diminishing their education or their business acumen. What I am saying is leadership requires personality as a component. It can't just be you the smartest person, so therefore, or else we would just take tests. Like, think about that. If the smartest person was a CEO, he would just have the smartest test scores, and that would be that simple. It's a combo platter. It's a combination of things. So, in the idea of, was Ebenezer smart in what he was trying to be smart at? He was absolutely smart. Was Ebenezer a fool? If he cared about people and his spirit and his effect on the world and who he touched, the Tiny Tims and that of the world, he had been a fool for years, but he wasn't so foolish. And you and I talked about this in a previous session. He wasn't so foolish that he didn't have shame. He wasn't so the worst, the most dangerous people are the ones that are doing bad by themselves and by others and don't even recognize it. Don't even have the shame to avoid you when they owe you money. Don't have the shame to look at you in the face when they've done something to the detriment of you and them. They're sociopaths, right? They're totally oblivious to the shrapnel or the adverse effects that their actions has on the community. And they expect the community, we've talked about this in the past, to go fund them when they didn't do what they were supposed to ultimately, because now they're leaning on the kindness of others or they just want somebody to give them a break. You know what I'm saying? If they just give me a break, okay, cool. How many breaks does it? Like I said, God gives you breaks. You shouldn't really depend on other people to give you breaks. If you don't have champagne at your home and it's a reflection of your bank account, you don't deserve champagne at your home. You haven't earned champagne. So you to sit around and say, I'm gonna go fund me so I can have champagne too. And I'm using champagne as a metaphor here, but you could insert whatever, a nice funeral with a horse-drawn carriage, whatever it is, you didn't invest in that. Therefore, you don't earn that or deserve that on the back end. And unfortunately, we live in a GoFundMe society.
If you want a break, you should buy a Kit Kat bar.
You don't have you could just eat them without breaking them too. I don't know. They've programmed you to believe you break them up into 4 little bars, but you know how small a candy bar that would be individual. I don't want to split a Kit Kat with anybody.
Yeah. But if you desire a break,
Understand.
anything, no, you're right.
Right.
So Key Galley, I want to make sure because I'm not sure if
Okay.
every person is included in this comment, but not
Mhm.
sure if my company is a top company. And I did work hard, but I will say that I am where I am because of my parents, their time, effort, money, example, etc.
Be mindful, be careful not to give too much credit to other people because I look at your personality or your potential as a fire. Somebody lit the pilot and then you blew oxygen on it to turn it into this bonfire, this roaring flame. You did have to go to class. You did have to wake up. You did have to interview. You did have to write some things. You had to learn how to write and read and articulate and things of that nature. So yes, they made an investment that you compounded on. Think about your finances. You put a little bit in, and then the market, which is bad now, but things compound over time to help add to what you put in initially. If that were not the case, we wouldn't put anything in. So your parents, children are the greatest investment you may make that will never pay off, right? So many things can happen between birth and adulthood where a child could go left, right, or indifferent. But you make that investment because that's the human nature, that's the human cycle. So, yes, you should appreciate your parents being there, but you only look at that from the lens of you've met people since then whose parents didn't do that, who weren't there at the games, who didn't make the investment. And you realize in retrospect and in comparison, wow, my parents actually gave a damn and put this into me. But I can tell you this, if you meet a young man who didn't have a father and he's the CEO of someplace like that, he's not saying the lack of a father is the reason why I'm here. Is the math has to equate in some way. And so when you look at the antithesis of your statement, you can't say anymore that your parents' involvement made you exactly who you are than somebody who was orphaned and became the greatest, whatever, would say that the lack of parents absolutely made them. Everybody has to take their own culpability in how they turned out. We can't absolve ourselves or highlight too much. I'm not saying don't have pride in your parents, Kigal. What I am saying is just understand you had a lot to do with that. And if you ask them, your parents sound like they would be honest with you and be like, that wasn't me, cuz that was you. That was you. I did yeah, I didn't graduate. My name's not on any of those degrees you have at your house.
So, how do you feel about this statement?
Okay.
Because I know the word frugal gets a bad name. Being frugal is being smart with money in order to accomplish a bigger goal. Being cheap means passing on your cost to others, and that is not cool.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm big on semantics. Everybody knows I'm a word Nazi. In the idea because words have sentiment that they create and spawn different feelings from people. In the power of the tongue type situation, cheap means low quality, low character, blah blah. Inexpensive means low price, and people tend to mix the two. So in the idea of frugality, frugality to me is not so much what you paid, it's the sourcing dynamic of it, meaning that you did a juxtaposition of how much does it cost? How much is it worth to me? When it meets that equilibrium point, am I willing to pay that? There are a lot of things that you would like to have, but you're not willing to pay that yet. Pure, simple economics says The reason why it costs that much is because somebody's willing to pay that much. I don't want a Fabergé egg. I'm not willing to pay for a Fabergé egg. That's not me being frugal. That's me knowing what's for me. Because in the idea of the tough part about frugality is it's going to be an impression that you have depending on who you speak with. Because I could literally have an entire wardrobe, socks, drawers, t-shirts, hats, everything from Goodwill. Thought I was going to say Walmart. Goodwill. Okay. And that would be frugal. Or, and then this is where you would understand the mindset of this thought process. I could dumpster dive and get it cheaper than Goodwill. But what am I doing for the sake of being claimed to be frugal? At some point in time, once again, you got to be willing to reconcile what am I really trying to prove here? And for the same thing, it's called Veblen economics. It's where the price of things are so exorbitant to show how special you believe yourself to be. A Bugatti. A Bugatti can get you from A to B back to A. I just talked to a person last night that has a Maserati. He said the oil change is coming up and it's going to be $1,200. He's willing to do that to separate himself from the herd and show that he's driving a Maserati. Some people say, so where did you go in that? How fast did you get there? How safe was it? And you know there's a Honda Accord or a Yugo or a Chevy Nova that could do the same thing and probably with a Maserati the same gas per mile. You know what I mean? But it's an idea of I like to dress this way, I like to walk this way, and I like to eat this way, and I like to go to restaurants where they put the napkin over their forearm because you make yourself feel like you've earned this and you make yourself feel separated from others in that regard. The one thing that you realize, and you and I've had this conversation before, is people that have, if they owned houses like we own and had jobs and had to drive themselves to places and knew how much cost at the grocery store, they would kill themselves. They would kill themselves. Like this, it is all relative. It's all relative. So frugality is also relative. Think about what I said. I could have said Walmart and everybody was like, yeah, that is frugal. If everything you get is at Walmart, you go to one place to spend one tank of gas and all this and all that. Who's keeping them receipts and who gives a damn? But then when you talk about the person that's actually watching this person throw stuff away or going to the Goodwill, that person's beating the Walmart person. They're beating them. All they got to do is go to someplace and get some laundry soap. It's what the frugal people call it, the laundry powder, washing powder. So I would be mindful and it would be responsible for me to say, be careful when you're doing things for likes and approval of others. And if you're doing it because that's how you feel and it makes you feel good to skim and to have a whole bunch of, to have an account with a whole bunch of commas in it, just remember, you can't take it with you. So unless you have this grand plan to give it to your children and you've taught your children to understand how much to appreciate all the sacrifices you made, because that happens a lot too. I got a guy and he like, I'm gonna give this to my kids. And I know for a fact he's not training his kids to appreciate. He can give his kids $2 million and they would say, that's what's up. He could give his kids $200,000 and they would say, that's what's up. He could give his kids $20,000 and they would say, that's what's up. The kids don't know. They have no idea that you eating ramen and sardines to put it in the account so that the money market grows at this percentage and this. You're not letting them understand the journey, because honestly, if you did, they might have enough wherewithal to say, no, Dad, you earned this. Go eat the steak. Go eat the lobster, man. I'll get mine. Just show me how you did it and I'll go get it. But you're doing it on my behalf. I'm not an invalid. I can feed myself. That's where we have to have that communication and we have to see things for what they are. So if you told me you was frugal, it would take a lot of conversation to help me understand why you believe so. Why you believe so. I mean, I grew up where my grandma used to wear the coat in the house because she didn't want to turn on the heat. But I never thought she was frugal. I thought she was cheap. And then I thought she didn't know no better from where she had came. You know what I'm saying? So that's all it is. God bless her.
So another word that gets a lot of praise and people want to work toward it is being generous. So how do we protect ourselves, or what tools do you have for people to protect themselves? Let me quote this guy, a very important guy in history, by the name of Jay Flex.
Okay.
He said, because a fool and his dough soon split. So when you come across a fool, get all that you can get.
I agree. So any idea of how you believe your interaction and your karma affects other people, you might want to abide by that philosophy, right? The great philosopher Jay Flex. But the issue is it's tough because you don't want to tell people how to feel. And a lot of this is emotional calibration. Some people feel great about giving. Some people feel antsy about giving. Takers do not have limits, so givers have to set those. And the idea of you meet a taker, you pretty much recognize them shortly because they're never giving, and that's whether it be finances or advice or anything. They never call you. I remember years ago, Best Buy had some Beats headsets on sale. And I called y'all up and was like, hey, I done already bought them. Like the sale was so good. I just need you to reimburse me because I done already bought these things. And y'all was like, bet. That type of relationship you have to foster and nurture because it compounds itself in other areas. In the idea of, number one, people talking out of your situation and you feeling a certain way about what they say, you're close enough to the situation to know how to feel. To feel like you have to be generous, it's relative because you could be generous with your time, you could be generous with your family. If you bring your kids around me, I believe you're being generous to let me interact with these young men because you didn't have to do that. There's a level of generosity there. Everything, we have to get off the fact that everything is financial and every exchange isn't a financial bartering system. That is not the case. You can sow into someone's spirit. You can brighten their day with a smile. Is that me being, if I came and smiled and said, what's up? If me and you sitting there and a brother come in and he got a young brother with him and they give us the head nod, that was generous of them. But that's okay. We shared a moment. Yeah. We exchanged a moment of positive energy amongst each other. Same thing as if a white woman came in, I don't want to make it a black thing, but if somebody came in and they was nice to you, that is extension of generosity of human condition. It's not always somebody owes you, because I think when you're saying generous, there's a qualification of quantity to where you had, once again, too much counting, right? And we'll do that at some point. But you had, I know that you got this bonus and I know it was 30,000. And I didn't ask you for nothing or whatever, but you show up to my house with a bottle of $27 wine. I don't have a problem with that. Some people will say, didn't he get, some women who knew the story would say, I thought you said he got a settlement for $72,000. He did. And this, I don't know if that was before taxes. It's so much that goes into it. I remember you wisely told me once years ago, 6 figures. Oh, I remember that. Yeah. Six figures is $100,000 and it's $999,000. So when you say you want somebody to make 6 figures, those are two different people. The dude that's making 100 on the dot and 999,000 do not have the same thought process, lifestyles, or none of that. So being as dumb to say something generic as 6 figures limits you. When you say aspire to just make 6 figures, once you make 100,000, you've succeeded. Congratulations. Take the win. But people don't do that. They start looking at who else is next to them that's making more than them that they feel like they're better than. And then the competition kicks in. And now you need to be making what they making. It's a lot of incompetent people that make $500,000 where I work. A lot. But that ain't got nothing to do with me.
I think you're one of them.
You're thinking wrong, and that's okay. You're allowed to do that in America.
Now, I need you to take off your coach hat, and I just need you to put on your sweats and be the regular dude. Okay. A family member knows that I got a bonus of 50,000.
Okay.
How do I nicely or meanly, however I put it, how do I respond to them asking this, whether it's a story or not a story, but them coming to me with a hand shaped like a cup, wanting some of my money, but really the money that I have is for a bigger goal, which is called my life.
Yeah, so, I was gonna say it doesn't have to be designated for anything. So you have 2 ways of doing this. First of all, stop telling everybody everything. That's number first, okay? If you've already let the cat out of the bag and you've told everybody everything because you like that type of attention, then if you don't want them to start doing counting and forget about tax, see, they forget about taxes. People think when you win $2 million in the lottery, you just have $2 million that just got transferred ACH into your bank account. There's taxes and all this and all that. People don't understand athletes only get 50% of their check after taxes. But the moral of the story is you get this 70,000 and now you sitting on it and somebody come with ideas about your money. You have to let them know, oh, I knew this was coming and earmarked everything. My mom, and I speak about my mom a lot because we have these conversations because she ain't scared of me. She hates that I tell people I don't have it for that. Now, I'm not lying to them and saying I don't have it because I do have it. I don't have it for that. What you're talking about there, I don't have it for that. Now, there's times where somebody will want an extension of finances or something like that, or time or a ride or whatever, and I just don't have it. But then there's times where, hey, I need you to help me move and this and that. Yeah, I ain't got it for that. I don't. And so putting my sweats on, like you said, just being a regular dude, you know what I'm saying, getting the 40 out the freezer because we're gonna get lit. It's a situation where I have to be strong enough in my dedication to tell you what it is. And let me tell you what makes that strength so much greater. You got $70,000. I know you just got it. You know for a fact that 3 years ago, I gave your ass $3,000 on some goofy stuff and never got my money back. That in itself is a problem because you should, if we have a relationship, have the wherewithal to give me back what I had given you. And that, I can't imagine that not happening. But what often happens is you come up. I've never come up to help you. I've never come up to help you. All of a sudden, it's the same situation. And I'll make it real simple for anybody on here that's got family, you know what I'm saying, that's been locked up. When they was out and balling, they was balling. They was getting it. They was cutting corners. Everything was milk and honey. They got locked up. Hadn't sent grandma no money. They had done nothing for the family as a whole. They hadn't bought turkeys for Thanksgiving or none of that kind of stuff. No Nino Brown action, right? Then when they get locked up, they want everything on their books so they can get the Jordan Trunners, so they can get they want to be G'd up in the joint and want you to finance that. When they had it, you didn't see any of it. They squandered it and got locked away, and now they want regular hard-earned taxable money to be put into a situation where they're locked away and the state is paying for their residency. You know what I'm saying? That's a problem because you didn't invest up front. You didn't invest up front to get a return on investment. Life is a series of return on investments. You invest here and then you can pinch off. You invest here, just like a 401k, sometimes you'll be taxed if you withdraw early. But at least you put something in to withdraw. So if you get the money, and I know that I done gave you money, and it would be nice if you gave it to me, but if I don't need it, I don't need it because I didn't give it for that. But you get, a large amount of money. Of course, my old lady is going to be like, you think he's going to give you back that 3Gs? If you want to keep talking to me, he will. But I'm not. And it's not even a situation where I ask for it overtly. I give you a chance because you could have forgot. But then I say, hey, when I start seeing you do for others frivolously, when you, you know what I'm saying, you doing stuff that don't even make sense, you got a gold-plated washer and dryer. I'm like, hey, I know you came in and I know you loving where you are, but I would be remiss if I didn't say, because of our friendship and our love, I gave you 3Gs, in 21. And now you may have that to give back. And you'd be like, dog, that's right. You right. I appreciated that. Whoop-de-whoop. And then we kind of, but it's often the people who've never given you at a level that you've either been blessed to give yourself in a position to give them to, or you've earned a position to give them to. And now all of a sudden it's inappropriate accounting. And so, yeah, don't fall for that. Have those candid conversations and say, you realized I've been blessed and sown into you 55 times. Now, if you want to do that, let's do that. Now, I didn't know you was counting. You're counting. Why are you the only mathematician here? You realize I got some money and you should deserve this. I should at least be good for 6,000, 8,000. They come up with a high number because that's how you negotiate. Well, once counting is on the table, counting is on the table. Let's do some counting. Because at that point, they put themselves in a situation where if you say no, or if you don't qualify their ask, they're willing to walk away with the friendship anyway. It's literally a negotiation, unfortunately. And it's sad because a lot of athletes and professional people talk about that dynamic with their family, carrier-ons, and loved ones. I'll tell a quick story. Allen Iverson had a friend that was constantly causing him money and putting him in bad situations that he had to pay out of. And he ultimately put $250,000 in the duffel bag, went downstairs, told you because everybody was living with him and all that kind of stuff. And his jewelry was coming up missing and everybody knew it was dude and all this. And he took dude out, not in front of the folks, took him out and said, cuz, it's a duffel bag with $250,000 in here. I can't do nothing else for you, bro. I got this for you. I love you. Here it is. There's nothing I could do for you, right? And of course the dude took the $250,000 because you know this from tax season. He'll run through that. He's not thinking I'm going to invest that and get a franchise or this and that. He's thinking I got a quarter. This is going to last me forever. And the friendship ultimately is what Allen Iverson paid off, and it's a sad situation when that's your guy, but it was a small price to pay for what could have been removed or taken from him long term. You dig? So it's those type of things. You just got to make smart decisions for yourself and realize who's with you and who's not, and then what they deserve, because you can hire somebody to tell you the evaluation of friendships. They actually have people that can do that, an actuary to tell you, hey, these are the people that's been in your life. This is what they, and they can talk you through it and say, I get at about 27,000. I get at about 16,000. They'll let you know, and you can feel better if you just want to feel better about it. But if you want somebody to guilt you into parting ways with your money, that's going to be there all the time, every time. Your old grade school teacher that didn't suspend you, everybody got a reason why they should get some of the bread that they know you have now. First of all, and I started with this, be quiet, shut the hell up, be cool. Everybody don't need to know all that. Bless people with surprises.
Figure it out. So Monique Jones says no means no, and I agree with that. Usually, okay. If you try to take my dough. You gonna tell us about the dream?
Yeah, I absolutely can.
Tell us about the dream.
Yeah, so the dream was this, and I'm gonna have y'all, the audience, kind of help deconstruct this to help me understand where it might have come from. So the dream starts with, for whatever reason, it's been real estate lately, right? And so the dream of the week this week was, it started with, we're getting a new house. Now it's not the townhouse the dude ran through from 2 weeks ago, I think. Anyway, we got a new house, and it's a big house. And my wife got a great deal on it because she does corporate real estate and all that kind of stuff. Got a great deal on this house. I don't ask a lot of questions. You know me. When it's not professional, I'm hardly asking any questions, right? And so we get into this house, and it's big, but it's like I don't want to call it a farm style house, but it's not brick. And so that was a departure. It's still well lit. It's probably 6,000 square feet. And I know where that part came from because we saw a house in Dallas that was 18,000 square feet a couple weeks ago. But it was a big house. But it had another, it had a garage that was attached to it. And then it had a shed in the back. Now, this is where the dream part kicks in. I go to the door. She was like, you got to see the shed in the back. It's really nice. We live here. It's our house now. So it's not like, I should have seen it by now, but I haven't. Who cares? I open up the shed door, and it's like a Sam's Warehouse in there. It's all kind of paper towels and cases of Pepsi and all kind of stuff in it. It's stocked. You know what I'm saying? So we got laundry detergent, everything that we could want. It's like a lifetime supply of stuff in this shed. But then when you turn the corner, the shed is bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside.
Okay.
So I'm like, dang. And it's a washer and dryer in there and all this other stuff. And then I can look around the corner, and it's other rooms. And I turn to her and say, man, your brother could live in here. We can clean this out and make some space. It's big enough to be like an apartment, like a little house, like a pool house or a guest house, for him to live here. And she turns around, and she's about 7 months pregnant. And then I woke up because we're too old for that. First of all, we're too old. And she wasn't pregnant when we walked into the shed. First of all, I'm calling it a shed still, but obviously this thing is big. If I'm calling it a Costco, like, it just kept getting bigger the more I was walking in there.
Why didn't you like it though?
I think I didn't get a warm and fuzzy feeling for it because I don't like surprise. My life is scheduled. I don't like surprises. And she was giving the impression that I had to jump on this, came across this at the job, had to jump on this, and now we bought it and we live here. And trust me, all our stuff was in there. Like, I had moved in. I just wasn't, like, she had took care of everything, I guess. And this was the reveal for me.
Why did you plan the whole relocation of the brother? You gonna clean out the shed? Where was you gonna put the stuff?
No. The stuff where the supplies could go was cool. The shed was huge, bro. Like, the shed would be equivalent, I swear to you, like a 1,800 square foot crib. Like, it was big as hell on the inside. On the outside, it was like a small shack, like a she shed. And then when you walked in, it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And when I turned the last corner, I was like, we could do something with this. He doesn't have to pay rent. He doesn't have to. He can come and be with us.
Why was you looking out for him so tough?
I don't know.
I think you looking at the wrong. You was looking to help the wrong people.
I think you asked the.
But you should be helping the baby. You got a baby coming.
Listen to me. How would that have hurt the baby? The baby wasn't gonna stay in the shed. So what does the baby have to do with it?
It has supplies. It has Pampers in there, I'm sure. I guarantee you.
We wasn't out of space in the shed, man. It was very selfish of her to have that baby on him when we just got a place for him to stay.
Destroy the warehouse and put people in it and make it a rental property.
It was gonna be dualistic. We could have kept some of it for the supplies and such, and then he could have had a place. Like, he had privacy. He could have had friends come visit. Like, we could have hooked it up really nice. It would have been really nice for him.
Pop says it sounds like a warehouse. And why are you trying to relocate this dude?
That was the first thought. I promise you. In the dream, I was like, this would be. I started having idea, and I'm not an HGTV guy. I started having visions of, man, he could really make this his own. And we got it. We good. We could, man, don't hide it, divide it. We could all be here, one big family.
What was your mood and her mood when you turned around and saw she was pregnant?
I was so confused. I was I was very confused. Once again, like I said, she was 7 months looking
Mm-hmm.
at this point and rubbed her stomach. And I mean, everything was swollen, ankles and everything, top, bottom. And she rubbed her stomach. And I was like, what the? And then I woke up. She done sprung this baby on me when I got these ideas to help the family. But this didn't happen. It's funny because
It
when I
is
woke up,
that.
I
That's
thought
part
to
of the family.
myself, what did the baby have? The baby was not a rebuttal to him staying there.
I think it
But
was.
she turned around like it was.
I think it very
She did.
was.
She did. She turned around like it was. Like, nope, we don't have room. We have an 8,000 square foot crib with 3 of us. And this new baby at this advanced age, we're gonna need somebody to call the people. We're gonna have to have a lot of life alerts. Like, we're too old to be doing this in the first place. So the more the merrier to me.
He don't like babies though.
Don't do him like that. Don't do it. Even in my dream, don't do my brother like that, man. I needed somebody it was too much estrogen in the house. I needed somebody to balance it out. But your people got any comments on my dream, man?
Oh, it was some what the hells from Kendra, Wow from
Okay.
Monique, and then Olipop sounds like a warehouse. It's still no words, and I feel like you need to devote your attention to the baby. Stop worrying about grown men. But that's my take.
Yes, and both. I could do both. We just came up on this big crib. I think we could do both.
You can't
But
save the world. We just talked about that. Just because
we
you came
did,
up on
we
something, you can't
did.
save the world.
It's
You have a
oxymoronic
bigger
to my message.
goal. You have a bigger goal.
That's true. That's true. So, but I appreciate that, man. Remember that we do this live on Wednesday, and then on Friday at 9 p.m., the shorter edited version comes out for your viewing taste. And it's definitely something that I would recommend you tune into. But in the meantime, I absolutely appreciate you all tuning in with us. Make sure that you tune in next week to Coach's Decision with Chris P. Reed. Bring your baggage and drop it off, and we'll sort through it. Until next week, I want you to take it easy, or at least take it how you can get it. Talk to you then.